Who walks away as the 2024 Managers of the Year in the American and National League? I'll give you my thoughts on it. Let's get into it. What's going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast, bringing you my thoughts and selection for the American and National League Managers of the Year. Yesterday, we went over the Rookies of the Year and my thoughts and selections on them, and today we're going to examine the managers starting in the National League. The three candidates in the National League are Mike Shildt of the San Diego Padres, Pat Murphy of the Milwaukee Brewers, and Carlos Mendoza of the New York Mets. Now, when you examine these three players, these three coaches, the managers, they're in a different position, in my opinion. I think that when you look at the two squads that ended with the same record in the San Diego Padres and the Milwaukee Brewers at 93 and 69 respectively, they're also in a position where their teams have been good for the last several years. When you look at Pat Murphy specifically taking over the manager role from Craig Counsell, who left and went to manage the Chicago Cubs, Pat Murphy was the bench coach there for a long time. Mike Shildt out in San Diego had been previously a manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. So this really wasn't a different feel for these two managers going into these squads that were absolutely dynamic for the last several years and postseason contenders for the last several years. When you look at Carlos Mendoza, the first-time manager, taking over a new squad, having been the bench coach of the Yankees for the last several years, now taking over that full-time manager role in the New York Mets organization, this was a team that wasn't expected to be much. They had a lot of money on the books that was playing elsewhere, and a lot of questions as to what was going to happen with their squad. Ultimately, when you look at these three candidates, in my opinion, I think that all three are absolutely deserving, and there's a case to be made for all three to be able to win the award. As we know, there can only be one winner. I think Mike Shildt ultimately lands in third place because I think that when you look at as good and talented of a roster as he had, I think that might play against him. When you go into the season, having guys like Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill absolutely blossomed into a superstar. And as I said in yesterday's video, I believe should have won the National League Rookie of the Year. I'm recording this before any of the awards have fully been announced. So if he won, I think in my opinion, it's rightfully so. But when you have talented players like that on your roster, I think that it's going to sometimes play against you when you are a guy who's competing divisionally with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think that it was a hard-fought battle for the Padres all season long, and really Mike Shildt could easily be the winner of this award, but ultimately I think he comes in third place. Now, to me, it's an absolute toss-up between the two first-time managers in Pat Murphy and Carlos Mendoza. However, when you look at Pat Murphy, he was also stepping into a situation where the team has already been a perennial postseason contender. There really wasn't much change outside of Pat Murphy going from the bench coach role to the manager role. There was very little turnover with this team. Obviously, they shipped out their ace in Corbin Burnes, which is a big thing in and of itself. But this team outside of that pretty much had all of their pieces ready to go. The one thing they had to wait on was their closer, Devin Williams, and his airbender changeup. But ultimately, you knew he was coming back at some point this season. There were also different moves that they were able to do, like bringing in a guy like Rhys Hoskins that I believe really did help give them an edge this season. And the Brewers were a competitive team all season long, having controlled and maintained the National League Central Division, which going into the season, I think a lot of people felt was much more wide open and not necessarily going to be an easy recapture of the division for the Brewers, but that's exactly what it was. It was status quo when it comes to this organization in that National League Central Division because Pat Murphy had been there. He's been in the dugout. He's been with these guys year after year. So it wasn't a hard transition to have him go from the bench coach role, that number two, that right-hand man, to being the guy in terms of running the ship on the on-field basis. So I think that for the Brewers, having a guy like Pat Murphy was a sense of stability, and he really proved it. Again, 93 wins is not a slouch of a season, and being able to do that as a first-time manager, especially having to manage the youngster and up-and-coming superstar in Jackson Chourio and kind of his ebbs and flows throughout the season, that's really where you see a manager worth his salt. And this is exactly what happened with Pat Murphy. So there's without a doubt a case to be made for Pat Murphy to be the manager of the year in the National League. But ultimately, I think it's going to fall to Carlos Mendoza. And I think the reason why Mendoza is going to be the winner of the 2024 National League Manager of the Year is because this Mets team was not expected to be where it ended up being. Obviously, they have talented superstars on that squad. Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, just to name a few, but there was a lot of money on the books for the Mets that was not playing for the 2024 New York Mets. Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, all of that money that's being allocated to pay those guys to play for other teams. This was a team that was not expected to be competing the way that it did. They were going through a slump. At one point, were one of the worst teams by record in Major League Baseball in terms of a certain stretch of games early on in the season. They hit that rock bottom point and they absolutely exploded thereafter, going all the way to the 6th game of the National League Championship Series against the eventual winners, the Los Angeles Dodgers. When you look at what Mendoza was able to do with this squad, they were able to start playing fast and loose and fun-loving while also being able to put themselves in positions to be successful. And I think that the manager had a lot to do with that. Now, sometimes managers don't have a whole lot to do with the team that kind of functions and runs on itself. But I think when you saw the very, very low lows that this team had in this 2024 season, ultimately reaching to the highs that they had, without a doubt, to me, that was a direct reflection of the kind of calm, cool, collected nature that is Carlos Mendoza. I think that he did provide a sense of confidence for this team. I also believe that he provided a sense of allowing these guys to really play and have fun as themselves, to be themselves, and to really just go out and embrace playing together as a team. And I think that when you look at what this Mets team was able to do in 2024, it absolutely blew past all the projections. I think even the most optimistic Met fan would tell you that they did not expect to see them playing in the 6th game of the NLCS and playing as well as they had throughout much of the second half of the season and beyond into the postseason. Being able to come up with that clutch at bat that you saw Pete Alonso have to push past the Brewers in that wild card, in that division series, to push past, get to the NLCS. Without a doubt, to me, Carlos Mendoza was doing something different in Queens, and that's what allowed the Mets to be as good as they were, and also what I believe is going to win him the National League Manager of the Year. Now, when it comes to the American League side of the Manager of the Year award debate, it is actually that. I think there is, without a doubt, the tightest race in all of the major 4 awards that Major League Baseball is going to go through, and all 8 rankings of it between the American and National League side. To me, this is the most difficult one to try to ballpark. When you look at the 3 managers that are in the running for American League Manager of the Year, you have AJ Hinch of the Detroit Tigers, Matt Quatraro for the Kansas City Royals, and Stephen Vogt of the Cleveland Guardians. This was absolutely an incredible race, and I cannot wait to see who ultimately walks away victorious with this award. This, to me, is the biggest battle, and we're going to see exactly who comes out on top. When it comes to this particular season, all 3 teams were extremely competitive. And to see the teams in the Royals, right, just the comparison between 2023 and 2024, to go from such a lowly record, over 100 losses, to being a postseason team, absolutely incredible. To see the Tigers, who were written off, they traded Jack Flaherty at the trade deadline, ultimately end in the postseason. To then see the Cleveland Guardians, who have been arguably one of the best teams and most underrated teams in all of Major League Baseball over the last several years, being able to be the team that they were, fighting all the way to the very end. This was an incredible season for all 3 teams, and the battle for Manager of the Year is going to be extremely difficult. Ultimately, I think it's going to shake down with Stephen Vogt having come in, even though it was a first-time manager, with a team that was already pretty much established. I think that's going to play against him. Obviously, we saw the legendary Terry Francona walk away, being able to go in, take over this team that had pretty much a ready-to-go roster. Without a doubt, one of the best performances, especially from someone just taking over the reins. But there's no doubt about it that this team has been here before. You have veteran leadership like a guy like Jose Ramirez, one of the most incredible ball players that Major League Baseball has to offer and be able to showcase the sport at a grand level. And when you have a veteran, a leader like that on your ball club, you have that ability. You have guys who are technically sound in Andres Jimenez and Steven Kwan. When you have those guys that are in there defensively that can hold up with the best of them, platinum glove award winner type level players, you have the makings of a fundamentally strong ball club. Without a doubt, Stephen Vogt came into a very good situation, and he helped them continue to grow and end up with a 92-win season. There's no doubt about it. There's no knocking that whatsoever. This was a tremendous ball club. But ultimately, because having a team that has been there before, that has done that with, again, a legendary manager in Terry Francona right before him, this to me is going to be the knock that kind of holds him to that third place finish. Now, when you look at the ultimate, the last two contenders of this award in AJ Hinch and Matt Quatraro, this is, honestly, is a coin flip. As much of a coin flip as you can have in the sport in deciding who the winner is, this is it. You had a Tigers team that, again, was selling at the deadline, a team that was not expected to be competitive at this level this year. They have a lot of young guys, a lot of guys that are still learning the game, still maturing in their approaches at the plate and their approaches on the mound. Guys who were very much written off. When you look at what this team did, obviously they had the front runner for the American League Cy Young and Tarek Skubal. And thereafter, AJ Hinch referred to it as pitching chaos. And that's exactly what it was. It was a full pitching staff assault on the opposition each and every single night from August on. And they were able to put themselves in a position to get to the postseason, something that was not expected for this squad whatsoever in 2024. Ultimately, the Royals and the Tigers would both finish with the same record, 86 and 76, both making the postseason and both putting on a tremendous showing against teams that were said to be better than them. Again, watching the Tigers be able to go through, and I know that this is not a postseason award. The writers, the BBWAA, has to vote on this prior to the start of the postseason. But nevertheless, seeing AJ Hinch manage his team the way that he did to dethrone his former team, to dethrone the juggernaut of the American League for the last 8 seasons, the Houston Astros, being able to throw them down and defeat them in the wild card round to advance to the division series, there's no doubt that was a tremendous feel for AJ Hinch, and he had managed that way all through the second half of the season. And to me, that is what allowed the Tigers to be able to take on this mentality of this pitching chaos, of just a full team attack. There was never any more pinch hitters in the game than AJ Hinch's 2024 Detroit Tigers. So when you look at what this team was able to do for the Tigers, there's no doubt about it. AJ Hinch has an extremely strong case for winning the Manager of the Year award. I say all that to say I still think he ends up in second, because Matt Quatraro of the Kansas City Royals had his team go from a 100-loss season in 2023 to a postseason winner, a postseason darling in 2024. To be able to have his team go through that progression, to go from, again, the losses that they had in 2023 to being the triumphant team that they were in 2024, the biggest turnover, the biggest changeover from year to year. There's no doubt when you look at what this team was able to do in this year, and again, to go from a record in 2023 of 56 and 106 to the 86 and 76 record of 2024, this kind of changeover from year to year shows that a manager is putting in all the right moves at practice, during spring training, going through when you're going through BP, when you're going through those infield drills, those outfield drills, those PFPs, all season long, nurturing this team, continuing to progress and push his superstars forward. Obviously, he had a tremendous year from Bobby Witt Jr., an MVP caliber season from Bobby Witt Jr., a resurgent caliber MVP level type season from Sal Perez behind the plate. There's no doubt about it that this team that Makatara was managing was without a doubt a tremendous ball club. They were able to bring in talent at the trade deadline, guys that brought a little bit of flair, a little bit of edge, like a Tommy Pham, to be able to kind of push them into the postseason with that little bit of edge that they can provide. But this team had gotten themselves into a position to be a real contender. There's no doubt about it that the future is absolutely bright for the Kansas City Royals. And to me, that is what's going to lead. That turnover from year to year is really going to be the staple and the standpoint of why Makatara wins the 2024 Manager of the Year award in the American League. But I want to know from you, baseball fans. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings on who wins the 2024 National League and American League Managers of the Year award. Let me know that down in the comments. Find me over on all our social media outlets, on X at banter_baseball. You can find me on all the other platforms at Baseball Banter Broadcast. I definitely want to hear from you. Let me know those thoughts down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're continuing to try to grow this channel and the reach and influence of the baseball world. So by hitting that subscribe and the bell, you'll be notified each and every time we drop new content. Make sure you stick tuned, as tomorrow we're going to go through the Cy Young Award winners and my opinions therein. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.